Their project required access to the library's oldest, most restrictive section, the Thorne Archives. This was a place few students ever ventured, filled with original manuscripts, dusty tomes, and the personal collection of Elias Thorne himself, the reclusive scholar after whom the library was named. Omar, of course, was thrilled. He spoke of whispers, of hidden passages, of Thorne's rumored obsession with the river's veil and its secrets. Aisha, ever practical, just wanted the data. Lena felt a strange pull, a melancholic energy, each time they entered the archives. Ben, always grounded, found the old technology and indexing methods fascinating. It began subtly. The air in the archives was always colder, even on warm days. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of damp earth and old river water seemed to cling to the pages. Books would occasionally slip from shelves when no one was near. Aisha dismissed it as settling dust or old building quirks. Ben checked for structural weaknesses. But Lena, she felt it. A prickling sensation on her skin, a feeling of being watched from the dark corners between the stacks. One evening, as Omar was consulting an antique map of the river, he swore he heard a faint, mournful sigh, like a breath drawn across the water itself. He looked up, but only saw the still, silent rows of books. Lena started having vivid, disturbing dreams. She saw a lone figure by the river, shrouded in mist, calling out in a voice that was both beautiful and utterly heartbroken. In her dreams, the library itself transformed, its grand halls becoming a watery labyrinth, the shelves submerged, the books dissolving into ink. She tried to tell Aisha, who, though concerned, attributed it to stress from the intense research. "It's just the stories getting into your head, Lena," she'd said, but Lena knew it was more. It was a premonition, a cold dread seeping into her waking hours. As their deadline loomed, the students decided to pull an all-nighter in the archives. The library was officially closed, but Professor Davies, their sympathetic advisor, had granted them special access, a lone guard on duty. The silence was profound, broken only by the rustle of pages and the distant hum of the building. Around midnight, while searching for obscure texts, Omar stumbled upon something peculiar. Tucked away in a forgotten corner, behind a sliding shelf, was a small, leather-bound journal, not catalogued, not listed anywhere. Its cover was blank, aged, and slightly damp, as if it had been near water. Omar, always drawn to the mysterious, opened it. The handwriting was ornate, faded, and the language archaic. It was the personal journal of Elias Thorne himself. Not his scholarly notes, but a series of cryptic entries, growing increasingly desperate. Thorne wrote of an entity, a whisperer of the veil, a presence bound to the Blackwood River, a spirit of profound grief. He wrote of attempts to understand it, to communicate, to contain its sorrow within the very walls of his library. He mentioned a specific date, a tragedy linked to the river, and the name Ilara. Imagine a place of quiet knowledge, towering shelves, forgotten secrets. Now, imagine it bathed in the pale moonlight, right beside a whispering river. Here, 4 brilliant young lives vanished. 3 days later, their bodies were found. Not in the library, but right beside it, on the cold, muddy banks of that very river. What chilling truth did they uncover, or did something far older, far darker, reach out from the depths to claim them? Tonight, we delve into a true American mystery that will make you question every shadow. Welcome, seekers of truth and shadows, to a tale that has haunted the whispers of academia for decades. We travel to the heart of the American Northeast, to the prestigious Blackwood University. But our focus isn't on its vibrant campus life, but on a specific, imposing structure that stands as a sentinel of time: the Elias Thorne Memorial Library. The Thorne Library is more than just a building. It's a monument. Built in the late 19th century, its Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, and labyrinthine corridors speak of an era when knowledge was sacred, and secrets were kept within stone walls. It's a place of quiet contemplation, but also of profound isolation. Its most striking feature? It stands on a secluded bluff, overlooking the wide, meandering Blackwood River, a river known for its serene beauty, but also for its unpredictable currents and a dark, forgotten history. Locals whisper tales of the river's veil, a shimmering mist that sometimes rises from its surface, said to carry the echoes of lost souls. This brings us to our protagonists. 4 bright university students, deeply engrossed in their studies. There was Aisha, the driven, logical mind, always meticulous, aiming for academic excellence. Her ambition was palpable, her focus unwavering. Then, Omar, the curious historian, fascinated by local legends and folklore. He saw stories in every brick of Blackwood, every ripple of the river. Lena, the artistic soul, sensitive and intuitive, often sketching the campus, but also prone to vivid dreams and an uncanny sense of atmosphere. And finally, Ben, the quiet, analytical one, a computer science major, whose calm demeanor masked a keen observational skill. They were a study group, united by a challenging research project on regional folklore and its impact on local architecture. A project that ironically led them straight to the heart of their own nightmare. As Omar read aloud, a chill permeated the room. The lights in the far end of the archives flickered, then died, plunging that section into shadow. A soft, mournful wail seemed to drift from the direction of the river, faint at first, then growing stronger, as if carried on an unseen current. Aisha, pragmatic as she was, felt a shiver. "Old wiring," she muttered, trying to sound confident. But Ben, usually calm, looked uneasy. He distinctly heard a faint scratching sound from behind one of the bookcases, like fingernails dragging across stone. Lena gasped, her eyes wide. "Did you see that?" she whispered, pointing towards the darkest part of the archives. A fleeting shadow, too tall, too defined to be an illusion, seemed to dart between the stacks. An intense, localized cold spot enveloped them, making their breath mist in the air. The mournful wail outside grew louder, sounding almost like a human voice in agony. Omar, gripped by a strange compulsion, turned to the journal again, searching for more about Elias. Thorne's entries became more frantic. He warned of the Whisperer's Song, a melody of sorrow that lures one closer to the river, promising understanding but delivering only oblivion. He wrote of a tragic accident, a drowning, a beloved lost to the currents, and his desperate attempts to preserve her memory, to prevent her spirit from being utterly consumed by the river's cold embrace. This Elias was someone he cherished, someone he felt responsible for. He believed the library could be a sanctuary for her grieving spirit, a place where she could finally rest. But his entries hinted at failure. The veil was thinning. The sorrow was too immense. As Omar finished reading, the wailing from the river intensified, becoming almost deafening. It was no longer just mournful, it was a desperate, pleading sound, a heart-wrenching symphony of loss. Lena clutched her head, whimpering, "It's calling us. It's calling us to the river." Aisha, despite her fear, felt a strange pull, a sudden, overwhelming urge to go to the windows, to look out at the Blackwood River, to understand the source of this profound despair. Ben, practical as ever, tried to logically explain it. Wind tunnels, acoustic anomalies. But even he couldn't deny the bone-deep chill that had now settled in the room. Aisha, deciding they needed to leave, tried the archive door. It was locked. They tried another. Locked. Panic began to set in. "Professor Davies gave us the key," Aisha exclaimed, fumbling with her keychain. But the key didn't work. The heavy, ornate doors of the Thorne archives, which had always been open to them, were now impenetrable. The silence within the library, save for the river's haunting song, became oppressive. They were trapped. The fear began to play tricks on their minds. Or was it something else? Ben swore he saw faint, shimmering figures moving between the bookshelves, just at the edge of his vision. Omar felt a cold, delicate touch on his cheek, leaving behind a lingering scent of lilies and damp earth. Lena began to weep, seeing the faces of her own deceased grandparents in the shadows, their eyes filled with an unspoken sorrow. They started to lose their sense of direction, wandering through familiar corridors that now seemed endless and unfamiliar, leading nowhere. Omar, clutching Thorne's journal, flipped to the very last page. The ink was smudged, as if written in haste, or through tears. She calls. She waits. Not for malice, but for peace. The river claims all. The library cannot hold. Her sorrow is too great. Do not seek her by the water, for her touch brings not death, but a yearning so profound it consumes the living, a call that cannot be denied. The entries ended abruptly. A new, terrifying realization dawned upon them. The wailing, the voices, the disorienting shadows. It wasn't trying to harm them directly, but to guide them. Towards what? Towards the river. A powerful, unseen force, like an invisible current, seemed to pull them through the library, leading them inexorably towards the windows that overlooked the Blackwood. They resisted, pushing against the unseen pressure, but it was relentless. Lena's fear was particularly acute. She had lost her younger sister to a sudden, tragic illness years ago, a grief she had never fully processed. The wailing, the sorrow of Alara, resonated with her own buried pain. She saw her sister's face in the mist rising from the river, heard her sister's voice in the mournful cries. "It's like she's calling me," Lena sobbed, a deep, unresolved trauma now being exploited by the spectral presence. Aisha tried to hold her, but Lena was almost lucid, lost in her own grief. Aisha desperately tried her phone. No signal. Ben tried the library's internal phone. Dead. They knew the god was downstairs, but the layout of the library was so vast, so silent, that their shouts were swallowed by the echoing halls. Even if they reached him, who would believe them? For panicked students talking about a wailing ghost and a sentient library? Their cries for help were trapped within the stone walls, unheard, unheeded. Time was running out. They were drawn to the library's grand hall, lined with enormous windows overlooking the Blackwood River. The river's veil had risen, a thick, swirling mist obscuring the banks, transforming the familiar landscape into an ethereal, otherworldly scene. And then they saw it. Through the swirling mist, a figure, translucent and shimmering, standing on the very edge of the riverbank. A woman in a flowing, old-fashioned dress, her silhouette distorted by the mist, her arms outstretched, beckoning. Her voice, amplified by the veil, filled the library, a pure, heart-wrenching melody of despair. It was Ilara. Ilara's form began to solidify within the mist. Her face, though beautiful, was etched with an unbearable sadness. Her eyes, two pools of infinite sorrow, fixed on them. The temperature plummeted. Aisha felt a crushing weight on her chest, a sudden, overwhelming wave of grief that wasn't her own. Omar felt an inexplicable urge to step outside, to comfort her, to ease her torment. Ben, fighting his logical mind, felt a profound emptiness, a sense of having lost everything. Lena, however, was drawn to her like a moth to a flame, crying out her sister's name. It was then that the horrible truth dawned on them. Ilara wasn't trying to kill them out of malice. She was trying to connect with them, to share her unending sorrow, to find release from the crushing weight of her existence. Her touch, her presence, wasn't an attack, but a draining of life, a consumption by her immense grief, a silent plea for someone to join her in the river's embrace, to share her burden. The previous victims, Thorne's earlier research assistants or curious scholars, hadn't been murdered. They had been overwhelmed by this profound despair, drawn into the river's treacherous currents, unable to resist the call. Ilara's voice, now a piercing lament, seemed to wrap around them, pulling them like an irresistible tide. The grand doors leading outside, which had been locked, now slowly, silently creaked open, revealing the misty path to the river. They fought it, clawing at the door frames, but their wills were weakening. Aisha, always the strongest, felt her resolve crumbling under the sheer weight of Ilara's sorrow. Omar found himself taking steps towards the mist, his hand outstretched, as if reaching for a lost love. Ben, his mind foggy, felt a suicidal urge to simply lie down and surrender to the emptiness. Lena, in a trance, was already moving, walking towards the open door, drawn by the echoing call of her own lost sister, conflated with Ilara's unending grief. They stumbled out of the library, onto the damp, cold path leading to the bluff. The mist thickened around them, disorienting their senses. Ilara's form shimmered at the river's edge, her mournful song echoing in their very bones. Aisha screamed, a primal sound of defiance and terror, trying to pull Omar back. Ben tried to grab Lena, but she slipped through his fingers, a spectral tug guiding her forward. The ground was slick with dampness, the river's current a low, ominous roar beneath the mist. They were too close. One by one, whether by slipping on the treacherous bank, or by succumbing to the overwhelming despair and deliberately stepping into the cold embrace of the Blackwood, they were drawn into its murky depths. The river, a silent witness to centuries of forgotten sorrows, swallowed them whole. 3 days passed. 3 agonizing days of desperate search parties, police investigations, and unanswered questions. Professor Davies, consumed by guilt and fear, led the effort. The Thorne Library was scoured, every corner examined. But they found nothing. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. Just an eerie, profound silence. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, the horrifying discovery was made. The bodies of Aisha, Omar, Lena, and Ben were found along the banks of the Blackwood River, miles downstream from the library, their faces serene, almost peaceful, yet their eyes open, staring blankly at the sky. There were no marks of violence, no clear cause of death beyond what seemed to be accidental drowning, though the circumstances defied logic. The police investigation ruled it an unfortunate accident, a tragic case of students perhaps venturing too close to the treacherous river in the dark, or being disoriented and falling in. But the local community, and especially Professor Davies, knew better. How could 4 intelligent, careful students, knowing the dangers of the river, all fall in simultaneously? And why were their faces so devoid of terror, replaced by an unsettling calm? The missing journal was never found. The Thorne archives remained silent, its secrets locked away once more. The Thorne Library still stands at Blackwood University, but its reputation has been irrevocably altered. Students avoid the Thorne archives, whispering stories of cold spots, disembodied cries, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. The case of the missing students became a chilling local legend, a cold case that no logical explanation could fully reconcile. The river, too, retained its mystery, its currents forever whispering tales of those it had claimed. What if Elias Thorne wasn't just a scholar, but a man consumed by a profound grief? What if his forbidden archives weren't meant to contain a monster, but to hold the unbearable sorrow of a spirit he desperately tried to protect? His journal hints at his true intentions, to provide a sanctuary for Alara, to prevent her spirit from being lost to the brutal indifference of the river. But he failed. His efforts, perhaps, only bound her stronger to the library, making it a conduit for her sorrow, a beacon for anyone sensitive enough to feel her pain. The horrifying twist in this tragic tale is that Alara, the whisperer of the veil, was not a malevolent entity. She was a manifestation of pure, unadulterated grief, a soul lost in an endless cycle of sorrow. Her call was not a summons to death, but a desperate plea for understanding, for release, for someone to finally bear witness to her pain and perhaps offer her peace. But her sorrow was too immense, her yearning too profound. Anyone who came too close, anyone sensitive enough to truly feel her suffering, became overwhelmed, their own life force drained by the sheer weight of her despair, their minds compelled to join her in the watery abyss where she found her eternal torment. The previous victims, and Aisha, Omar, Lena, and Ben, were not killed by a vengeful ghost, but consumed by an unbearable sorrow, lured to a watery grave not by malice, but by a heart-wrenching spiritual yearning. This tragedy highlights a terrifying truth. Some entities, some forces, are not driven by evil, but by pure, unmitigated emotion. And sometimes, empathy, the very human desire to connect and understand, can be the deadliest vulnerability. Elias Thorne's library, built with the intention of safeguarding knowledge, inadvertently became a trap for a sorrow too vast to contain, and a beacon for those unknowingly drawn into its tragic depths. The Elias Thorne Memorial Library stands, a silent guardian of forgotten knowledge and unspoken grief. The Blackwood River continues its relentless flow, its waters forever whispering tales of those it has taken. Was it an accident, a collective hallucination, or was it the chilling truth of a sorrow so profound it could compel the living to join the dead? Can a ghost's grief truly claim lives? While the specific names and details of this harrowing account have been adapted for storytelling, the chilling essence of a historic library, students vanishing by a river, and a dark local legend connected to the water, echoes through many forgotten towns across America. These are the kinds of tales that aren't always found in official records, but live on in the hushed whispers of local folklore, passed down from generation to generation, serving as grim warnings from the past. The fear isn't just in the spectral, but in the idea that some places, some events, leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of reality, forever drawing new victims to their tragic narratives. Narrator. The Thorne Library, with its ancient books and forgotten corners, became a repository not just of knowledge, but of Alara's enduring sorrow. A place where memory, emotion, and the echoes of the past can become tangibly real. This story reminds us that every old building, every flowing river, every quiet town, might hold secrets far deeper than we imagine. That the very ground we walk on might be saturated with the lingering echoes of tragedies long past. And for those of us, like Omar, who are drawn to the mysteries, who seek to uncover the hidden histories, this serves as a potent warning. The allure of the unknown is powerful, but some secrets are meant to remain buried. Some sorrows are too immense for the living to bear. The line between curiosity and danger can be perilously thin, especially when dealing with forces that operate beyond our understanding, beyond our physical laws. This chilling incident forces us to confront the possibility of an unseen world, a reality where intense human emotion, particularly grief, can manifest with devastating power. It speaks to our own vulnerabilities, our own hidden sorrows, and how, in moments of profound emotional resonance, we might inadvertently open ourselves to forces we cannot comprehend, let alone control. The students were drawn not by a monster, but by a raw, overwhelming lament, a tragic echo of a broken heart. Elias Thorne, in his desperate attempt to preserve Alara's memory, ironically bound her spirit to the very place he hoped would bring her peace. His scholarly pursuit became a tragic obsession, his legacy forever intertwined with the mournful whispers by the river. Perhaps Alara, in her eternal sorrow, continues to reach out, an ethereal siren song of grief, forever seeking someone, anyone, to alleviate her unbearable burden. And perhaps, it is this very attempt to connect, to share her unending pain, that proves fatal to those who dare to listen too closely. This story, at its core, is about grief. The raw, consuming, all-encompassing sorrow that can break spirits, shatter lives, and perhaps, even transcend death. It is a reminder that loss leaves deep scars, not just on the living, but perhaps, on the very fabric of time and space. Alara's story is a chilling testament to the power of unresolved sorrow, a power that can literally draw life from those who encounter it. Imagine the cold mist rising from the Blackwood River, obscuring the banks, distorting the world. Picture the ancient, dusty shelves of the Thorne archives, now silent, holding secrets far older than their tomes. Hear the faint, mournful wail, carried on the wind, growing louder, more desperate, until it fills your very soul. Envision the translucent figure, etched in sorrow, beckoning from the river's edge. These are the visuals that haunt the imagination, painting a terrifying picture of a world where grief takes on a physical form, capable of claiming lives. We present these accounts not as mere fiction, but as echoes of genuine belief, as stories woven into the very fabric of local history, passed down through generations. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the mystery of the Blackwood students and the Elias Thorne Library remains a chilling testament to the dark power of hidden histories and the enduring influence of tragedy. It forces us to question the boundaries of our reality and to consider that some truths are far stranger and far more terrifying than fiction. But beyond the fear, there's an inspiration, the enduring human spirit's drive to seek truth, to understand the unknown, even when it leads to the precipice of our deepest fears. The students, in their pursuit of knowledge, inadvertently stumbled upon a truth that cost them their lives. Yet their story continues to provoke questions and inspire us to look deeper, to listen to the whispers of the past. It inspires us to confront not just the ghosts, but the profound human emotions that create them. What are your thoughts on this chilling tale? Do you believe Alara's grief consumed these students? Or was there a more mundane, yet equally tragic explanation? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you have a real-life ghost story, a local legend from your own area, that you believe deserves to be investigated, tell us. We are always searching for the next profound mystery. The Elias Thorne Memorial Library stands, silent, majestic, eternally guarding its secrets. The Blackwood River flows on, its surface shimmering under the moon, hiding untold sorrows in its depths. Some calls, once heard, can never be unheard. And some truths, once uncovered, can never be unseen. What other stories lie hidden, waiting to be revealed.